Well, welcome to the show floor of Gartner Data and Analytics 2025, where Senzing has a booth. We're pleased to offer you a demonstration today of one of our OEM partners, ThinkData Works. And we're joined by Brendon Stennett, the co-founder and CTO of ThinkData Works, where he's going to show you how they've used Senzing inside their Customer 360 integration platform. So over to you, Brendon.
Thank you, Anthony. So we are a data virtualization and data governance platform all built into one. What we do is make it easier for customers to connect to siloed data assets. So if you could imagine, you may be working at a company that has a number of different applications spread across multiple different source systems, and then answering questions about all these source systems from one place can actually be oftentimes very challenging. What we do is allow you to actually able to connect to that and create a single global view of all data as if it were one single virtual data warehouse.
Fantastic.
With Senzing, we actually allow to ingest this data directly into the Senzing engine and actually start to consolidate customer records across these different source systems. So you can actually link records that were previously unlinkable. Situations where you might have a POS actually set up in one location and you might have your ERP system with different customer records attached to it. What we actually are able to do is create a system that actually able to link these even if they didn't have IDs that were previously linked. So to show how this works, we might have a customer data set that's coming from our point of sale location that is very specifically only retail. And then we may have customer data set coming from our ERP location that is mostly maybe perhaps only online and all data that's structured that way. The data sets themselves are going to look very similar. We've got customer data that's coming from one system that has customer ID along with some names, email addresses, and phone numbers. And then from the other system, it's going to look very similar. What we do is we actually can feed this in through the Senzing engine to create a summary view of these customers as if they were one data set. So if you could see here, we have a consolidated view of all customer information where we actually have different customers coming from different systems. So if we look at Alice Johnson here, she might be coming from source A and source B with two different customer IDs associated with her and different spellings of her name. Those different spellings can create a lot of challenges if you're trying to answer problems about what is Alice's total purchase volume across all channels. Very difficult to do so because you have different IDs, different names, very difficult to link those. With Senzing, what we're able to do is actually feed this into that engine and create a consolidated ID along this where the end result is one single ID that can be used to link through all consolidated orders for Alice. So what we could do from there is actually build a consolidated order data set that actually shows all orders to all channels for one person being Alice Johnson. So right now we've got A Johnson coming from this location. If I actually sort by consolidated ID, you will see here that we not only have these three orders here, but we also have Alice Johnson order, which would have been previously missed if we were not feeding this in through this system. The way that we actually do this is if we were to actually go through how we would actually go through and onboard data, we could actually connect to all different data sets as they exist throughout your organization without actually having to move them. So we might have a number of different source systems that exist. We have an ER demo, an ERP, a POS retail. We have another Postgres database by some other internal application, perhaps. We have a Salesforce database that exists that's being replicated.
Yep.
All of these are completely different systems that are actually very challenging to work with had they not been available through one universal control plane. What we can actually do is once we have set these up where we have a ERP system and say our POS retail, what we can actually do is start to onboard this data through this system directly through our interface. So what you would actually do is clicking on this button here would allow you to create a new data set. We can actually choose to create a data asset as part of this. And then we can actually go to selected data in the source system where it exists. So we can actually configure which connection we're doing. In this case, we are connecting to our ERP system. And then selecting here will allow us to actually introspect this entire database, see all tables that are available. So in this case, I brought us a customer, but maybe I've got another customer data set that's coming on here. I can click done, and create. And what I'm actually going to be doing is onboarding this data set into the system.
Great.
So this is a purely metadata operation at this point in time. No data has moved. All we're doing is creating a virtual data lake to this underlying data set and making it available through the system to be queried.
Do you need those data sets to be formatted in order to do that?
So they are connecting to database systems. So they're already in a format that the system can actually already query. We do have an ingestion engine as well. So if you have flat files that exist throughout the organization, a lot of times we'll have use cases where we have a database that's powering one system and this whole other side of the business is driven by Excel.
Right.
We see this all the time.
I'm sure very common.
And, all that data that's in Excel spreadsheets is completely locked away, no longer actually viewable and no longer usable. What we can actually do is ingest that and present it as if it were any other database through our system as well. So through here, we actually now have this customer data set where you're actually able to view through replicas, and you're actually querying this data set directly where it lives. One thing that we can also do here is actually create filters on this data set as it's working through. So we not only allow it to actually connect to it, but you can actually go through and distribute data in the organization. So you can actually view different data sets for different slices through different people. So I have this customer data sets coming here with, say, a couple of different email names. Actually, you know what? I'll come over to here.
This is the equivalent of like creating an internal data product to have your downstream users.
Correct. Exactly.
Great.
So we'll go back to our customer data set coming from our retail location, which actually has some cities in here, which I can link across. We have some cities coming on here. And say we have a use case where there's some analytics that we're trying to work through, but we only want certain teams able to actually view parts of the data. We don't want to open up the entire data set to them. Say for a particular team we're working on, we actually only want Springfield to be available for a particular analytics workload that we're doing. We can actually filter by this cell value and extract only the records for Springfield, for example, as part of this. And then we can actually share this throughout the rest of the organization. So I can hit share here, and then I can click new share, and then I can actually decide who I want to share this, whether it's everyone in the organization, particular team, or particular member of the organization. So say maybe we're going to share this with the rest of the team, but we're going to restrict it to just the city of Springfield. Hitting share, just like that, will now open this data set up to the rest of the organization, but they'll only be able to see that slice of the data.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So this is an enterprise platform, but you're handling the role-based access control across the different departments that are accessing these new data products created for this virtualization layer.
That's correct. And because we're actually doing it this way, you don't have this convoluted access control mechanism that's going on through every single database in the system. You just have one single control plane for managing all data access as it exists.
And you don't need to migrate your data. You're just connecting it in place.
You do not need to migrate your data. Attaching to this purely metadata operation, we're actually querying the data where it lives. So you don't have to do any complex data migration before you start answering complex challenges.
Brendon, how would it work if you wanted to pull in data sets that are maybe external to the organization, maybe do some enrichment? Can the platform handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar to the Excel problem that we talked about, we actually have an ingestion pipeline that we can bring in. So you can import any data set, whether it's another flat file that exists in your organization or external data that might exist, to actually enrich your current data with some of that great data from the external source. So we actually have some core data coming from you folks where I just filter by topic word. We actually have some data that's coming in that you might actually want to enrich company data. In this case, we've got LEI numbers coming from the city of Las Vegas. So say maybe you had a particular data set where you didn't have LEI information, LEI number information, you actually wanted to augment this with this information. What we can actually do is bring this external data in using Senzing, match your existing customer records or your company records that exist there, and then actually augment it, create a link, and then we can bring in the LEI information on top of that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
At Senzing, we have a new initiative around collections of relatable data sets. So we call them chords. And it's a use case that Brendon was just identifying or articulating, where you can onboard with external data sets that may already be pre-formatted in Senzing format to ingest into the ThinkData platform.
Yeah, great. So we have very rich access control through all of this as well. I kind of had shown that off. And we also have the ability to actually view lineage information on your transformations as it's going through. So not only are you working through, how you're actually bringing data in through the platform and how it's being integrated, but you can actually see down to the column level how this data is actually flowing through the platform and through the engine. So if there's ever any issues with the data, you can actually identify where that's coming from.
Fantastic. So Brendon, if somebody wanted to get started with this, how would they go about it? You can go to Senzing.com. There's a blog on ThinkData talking about the C360 profiles. But Brendon, for someone inspired by this demo, where should they go?
So ThinkDataWorks.com will give you some information around this product and more. And if you want to find out some more information, you can either follow the contact information on there or info@ThinkDataWorks.com, and we can get you started. We're actually doing an experimentation with a rapid POC that we're working through right now, which will get you up and running in about 1 month, connected to data and fed in through Senzing as well. So you can start to get a view of your data with very little amount of time and start to get an idea of how this works for you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for everyone in the audience for attending this session. Thank you for your partnership, Brendon, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.